Cook's people, they didn't understand that. So when the weta was laid down, those Royal Marines who were combat trained soldiers just thought, oh heck, there's a fight. Shoot first, ask questions later. And Te Maro is a very tragic consequence, his death, and Ngati Porou have every right, Te Whanau Apunui, Rongo Whakaata, all of those peoples in that region have every right to be angry. And it's good that the British High Commissioner gave an expression of regret and of remorse. I think it's part of the healing. So yeah, there were problems, there were issues, What was the other part of the question?
That France was also interested in
Cool. So France wanted New Zealand. We wanted New Zealand. The British wanted New Zealand. But here was the problem. None of them had the resources to commit to a full-scale invasion. Remember, the Indian Rebellion had just taken place a few years before. India, the largest British colony, had rebelled. Britain was still trying to recover from that. So while it wanted New Zealand, it wasn't willing to pay for New Zealand. It wasn't willing to really invest in New Zealand, which is why Governor Hobson had to resort to trickery in order to get our country, as opposed to just rocking up with an army and saying surrender or die. He didn't have the capacity. The colonial office was not going to give him those resources, and that's why if you see in the campaigns, the British Army never came to New Zealand. Never. The battles that were fought by Honeheke were against Royal Navy troops. And then if you look at the Waikato campaign, Governor Grey borrowed £1 million from an Australian bank to hire certain elements of the British Army. But they didn't come here as the British Army, they came as mercenaries. They were hired, and so that's why I say, that's how I quantify my statement. The British Army was never deployed here. They were hired by by the Governor Grey. They were mercenaries. So yeah, that gives you a bit of context. But yeah, it was. Now, should we have gone with the British? Should we have gone with the French? I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda. That's like asking you, do you want to be kicked in the left nut or the right nut? Either way, you're getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah. Well, you can see throughout history the French colonies have been treated harsher than what British colonies are.
Yeah, but does that excuse what was done?
True.
I mean, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's all coulda, shoulda, woulda. The fact is, war crimes were committed. People died. And to justify a war crime by saying that if we had have come under the auspice of another empire that wasn't so nice, like I said, it's like saying, oh, don't worry that your left nut is hurting. If you got kicked in the right nut, it would have felt bad. It's either way, people died. Either way, a language was lost. Either way, millions of acres of land were stolen. I mean, I think 180 years later, it is far too late to have that conversation. Yep. But let's address it. A lot of people have that conversation because we call it white man's guilt. And this is the thing. I don't want Pākehā, which by the way does not mean white pig, it just means white person. I don't want Pākehā to feel sorry for what happened. I want them to understand what happened. I don't want them to feel guilty. You should not feel guilty for something that someone else did. Especially if the only relation you have to them is that your skin colour is the same.
Yeah.
No, what we want is for white New Zealand to recognise what happened. We want them to be aware of what happened, and we need them to understand that the power structures, the economic structures of this country are all based on war crimes, theft, confiscation. It's all based on that. I mean, at the end of the, as one man once said, it's all stolen goods anyway. We just want people to understand that. And there is that conversation, just forget about it and move on. And it's like, well, if I burn down your house and then your grandchildren came to my grandchildren and said, rebuild my grandfather's house, would it be just if my grandchildren said to your grandchildren, forget about it and move on? Would that be right? It would not be right. So when the conversation about confiscation, about compensation, it's about trying to make it right so that we can move on. And people say, oh, why are you guys always asking for money? And it's like, well, the reason that we are forced to take money, and we are forced to take it, by the way, is because we can't get our stuff back. If people just gave us our stuff back, we wouldn't be asking for money.
Yeah.
Give us back the land, give us back the trees, give us back the fisheries, give it all back. Trust me, money is no longer a conversation. But, we are forced to accept pennies in the dollar. To give you an idea, what I mean by that is the total market value of the lands that were confiscated by the government, just in the Tainui area alone, would be valued at $100 billion today.
Just so the people know the Tainui area, what area would that be?
So that would be from Mangatawhiri River, right? Mangatawhiri, as far down south as Hamilton, Cambridge, going out west to like Kawhia area, right? That triangle, rough triangle, right? Yeah. So the total amount of lands, market value today would be about 100 billion. We were given 150 million as compensation. So let's break that down. If I stole $100 from you, and then your grandson came to your grandson and said, hey, yo, pay up. And then he said, I tell you what, if I give you 50 cents, will you shut the hell up? 50 cents, that's my best offer. Take it or leave it. That's what we are forced to accept. And we are forced to, because it's the only way that we can truly move on. Okay. But what could you do if someone stole, 100 billion off you, and then gave you 50 cents, or no, sorry, $100, and then you were just given 50 cents and told to bugger off?
Are there any rumours that you've heard about that I haven't covered yet?
Yeah. So, let's just say it succinctly: the Treaty of Waitangi was not a peace treaty. It was a treaty designed to prevent conflict. Obviously, conflict arose. Yeah. The second thing is that. And I think this has got to be said. The treaty compensation conversation is not one of special privilege or right. Any person under Crown law has the right to sue the government. Anybody does. You have the right to sue the government. And I say this to the Chinese community, to the Indian community, to the white community, any community. If the government committed war crimes against your people, you would have the right to sue for compensation. You would have the right to ask for those injustices to be rectified. Yeah. And that is a right that is universal. But it manifests in New Zealand law in different ways. So, we've got the Waitangi Tribunal and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, the concept is the same. We are only exercising our rights as citizens of the Crown, as citizens of the Commonwealth. And that is a right that every single ethnicity in this country has. It's just that the government hasn't committed war crimes against your people, they've just done it against mine.
Okay. So that's basically the myths and rumours I've covered. So about celebrating Waitangi, or let's talk about it being a public holiday, how, with you being Māori, I'm part Māori, do you look at it as another public holiday, or do you have the significance of it being like it's Waitangi Day, it should be revered?
I celebrate Waitangi Day personally because it's the day that Aotearoa was opened up to the world. So if you look at that one particular event, if you celebrate the event, then look at it as such. Now, should people protest on Waitangi Day? Hell yeah. Do I protest on Waitangi Day? Hell no. But Waitangi Day celebrates bringing of Crown law, of the rule of law to Aotearoa. So exercise your democratic right, celebrate, go to the beach, but I think also have a thought for those that Waitangi Day maybe is not a good day to remember. And reach out to Māori. Reach out. If you have no links to Māori, Waitangi Day is a great opportunity to forge a link with us as Indigenous. Well, I don't like the term Indigenous, I prefer the term Native. For us as Natives, and various iwi across the country host events where all are welcome. So back home in Taupo, we have the Taupo Moana Festival, which is hosted by different tribes along in the Taupo region. So my people back home, nuku hau marae, mihi atu ki a koutou, nuku hau marae a Ngāti Rauhoto, me te hukuwai o Ngāti Tuwhareto, mihi atu. So, we hosted the Taupo Mana Festival. We had people from, we had Holly Smith performing, we had Annie Crummer, we had local dudes, we had Kapahaka, and everyone was welcome, no questions asked. So that's what I would say. Celebrate Waitangi Day by being with Māori, and we are open. Come to us, find us. We are only. It's our land, it's our country at the end of the day, and we are welcoming. But all we want is for that to be done on our terms.
Be respectful of them. You are going into basically their marae, their territory. So be respectful of their traditions as well. If you are disrespectful, you will basically be kicked out and police will be involved. And no one wants that to ruin people's holidays. So do you think with Waitangi Day we should celebrate it kind of like how Australia celebrate Australia Day with fireworks, big celebrations?
Okay, so Australia Day is a different conversation. But your question is worthy. So I guess the context, So Australia Day is the day that the first fleet of ships, landed in Australia. Yeah. And so for Aboriginal people, they see it as an invasion day. I interviewed an Aboriginal academic about Australia Day, and she said it's never a good day for me. And I had to be very careful of the questions that I asked her, because I knew that I was bringing up something very emotional for her. Yeah. So I think that so for them, they're just trying to whitewash it. They're trying to make the whole country forget everything that they did. The slavery, the bearing of babies and then kicking their heads off like footballs. The atrocities that were committed. They're trying to make everyone forget that. But should we have
stolen generation?
Yeah, and this lady that I interviewed, her grandmother was stolen generation, and so it was very. And they met their grandmother when the grandmother was in their 40s.
Wow.
And she passed away not long afterwards, So, it's, the stolen generation is such. So, yeah, it is a different context. But should we have fireworks? Personally, if I could buy fireworks on Waitangi Day, I'd be lighting them. Personally, because I think that the arrival of... I've got to quantify what I say. White people coming into Aotearoa was never the issue. It was the BS that came with it. The baggage, the politics, the greed, the unfettered immigration. The fact that within 30 years of the Treaty of Waitangi being signed, there had already been like half a dozen major wars across the country. And thousands of my people had died. Take all that stuff away, but the relationship between the Crown and Aotearoa, that is something to be celebrated. Because if we keep celebrating, maybe one day we'll get the hang of it. Maybe one day we'll actually honour it and keep it. But so no, that's my whole thing, man. If I had fireworks to shoot on Waitangi Day, hell yeah, I would.
Okay, so it's basically what I wanted to cover with Waitangi Day. Basically to give you guys a bit of a history of what Waitangi Day is. I've done brief histories in my first video that I did for my first Waitangi Day I did with a vlog, which you can go back and see. Me and my wife were basically went to Piha Beach. But I just thought this time around, we needed, for those international viewers that do watch my videos, I thought to give you a good history, try and rectify any rumours you may have heard about it, and try and make you kind of... Some people may think of it like, the Americans may think of it, it's kind of like 4th of July. Sort of, but not really.
It's not 4th of July, Whānau. It is not 4th of July. It's more like Veterans Day combined with Remembrance Day. And maybe we need to create a new day that actually properly describes what it is. But yeah, for me it's a day of remembrance. It's a day of holiday. It's a day of enjoyment. And I remember... I don't forget what happened, but I am no longer angry about the war crimes, about the epidemics, about the wars. I'm not angry about it no more. But I know a lot of Māori are, and they have every right to be. But just for me in my personal space, in my personal life, I'm no longer angry, and I would hope that one day we could transcend racial issues, that we could just see people as people. But in order for that to be done en masse, that has to be done on a personal level, and people need to come to that conclusion within themselves. And as more reconciliatory steps are taken, as the government does its part to right wrongs, I think more people will come aboard on that, and they'll be less inclined to that anger from colonisation. And remember, the first 5 letters of colonisation is colon. That's not my joke, by the way.
Okay. So also one thing that I've just remembered is a couple of years ago there was a debate basically. Should it be called New Zealand Day or Waitangi Day? For me personally, I think Waitangi Day, and I think with Bronson also, he also would think keep it as Waitangi Day, because that meaning has more than what. It's not New Zealand's Day, it is Waitangi Day. New Zealand was not actually really formed on Waitangi Day.
No.
New Zealand went through many years before we were actually known as New Zealand.
Yep. What he said, with the addition of New Zealand as an idea. We haven't got there yet. What New Zealand is to you is totally different to what New Zealand is to me. But maybe one day we'll come to a conclusion. Maybe one day we'll come to a consensus. Personally, I think we should rename the country Aotearoa New Zealand, and that Waitangi Day should remain Waitangi Day. Because if it wasn't for Waitangi Day, there'd be no New Zealand, and that's pretty much what you're saying, eh, bro?
Yep, that's what I'm basically saying. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget, subscribe. Where can I find you, Bronson, if I want to see more of your content?
Bitcoin Bronson. I normally blog about Bitcoin. I haven't done much lately. Otherwise, you can find me online, Bronson Perich. A lot of my writings, just Google me, Bronson Perich. Otherwise, if you want to see my videos, Bitcoin Bronson.
Yep. So,
Ciao.